Hey, what's going on, GameLeapers? The 10 crazy builds for 12-23, the preseason. Now, there's a lot of Ravenous Hydra here, so I do apologize for that, but that's just how it is, guys. Like, there might be a few other builds that are kind of surprising and new, but for the most part, Hydra is going to be dominating this countdown. Spoiler alert, by the way. But like our other videos where we talk about champions and items and runes and setups, right, these might help your game a little bit. You might win a couple more games, but guess what? You're still going to be hard stuck. 100%. Like, you're not actually improving. You're still going to be the same player, right? You're going to make the same decisions. Doesn't matter if you have an item diff or not, you're still going to win 50% and lose 50% of your matches. You know how to improve that? Check out the GameLeap website instantly. I'm uploading videos where I'm coaching Master to Challenger players, and I'm condensing them into 10 to 15 minute highlight videos where the key tips and key ideas are just made more succinct and easy to learn and even apply in your games. And all you have to do is just sign up. That's it. You gain exclusive access to our massive library of content, so stop wasting valuable time and instantly improve by checking out our website links down below. Now let's get into the 10 builds. Now we'll start by talking about, well, the only top laner on this countdown, this being Tryndamere. And for Tryndamere, despite Ravenous Hydra getting nerfed once again in the hotfixes for 12-23B, it's still the best build, right? Get Berserker's Greaves first though, that's important. Then we want to get Hydra. Helps so much with your wave clear once you get Tiamat, and then upgrade this to Hydra. Even the ability haze comes in handy, because we're a Q-max Tryndamere, you can get so many bloodlusts off. It's also really useful for your sustain during the laning phase, and once you get Kraken Slayer, you become extremely dangerous, especially if you can get going during the early game. But do be a little bit careful maybe of blind picking Tryndamere. There are a lot of hard lanes, right? So champions like Malphite, who can slow your attack speed, Singe, who's pretty much impossible to actually stay on, Nasus with his Wither, so do think about that in champ select. Now moving down to the mid lane, we have two champions to talk about. The first of these is Ravenous Hydra Corki. Now I've mentioned this in other videos, right? Hydra, even though it was stronger a couple of patches ago, is still good for this champion. But honestly, this is probably a bit more conditional now, just because it has been nerfed so much and Corki isn't the strongest mid laner to pick, so make sure you're picking this and building this when you know the enemy mid laner is going to let you scale. So I'm talking champions maybe like, you know, the enemy team has a Seraphine mid, or maybe they have a really scaling champion or a champion who isn't that scary during the laning phase, then you can pick Corki. But if they do have someone who can pressure you, it's very dangerous to pick Corki because you might not get out of that laning phase. That's why we're taking absolute focus in gathering Storm to enable our scaling. And taking First Strike is very good because you should be getting the first hit off in most matchups. But once again, if you're against a big range champion, it's risky to pick the Corkster. But still, Ravenous Hydra Corki has got to be mentioned. Now the other mid laner, let's just say you don't want to play Ravenous Hydra. Jak'Sho honestly is probably the next best like OP item, even though it got hotfix nerfed just like Hydra. And doing this on Swain is a very low-key underrated tactic. So what you're going to be building is Rylai's Crystal Scepter into Jak'Sho. You can see these stats in Master and above in the mid lane. With Lucidity Boots, Rylai's Crystal Scepter and Jak'Sho look at the bottom for me, 65% win rate in 60 matches. Now you can change these boosts for Sorcerer's Shoes, the win rate is still going to be above 60%. And for players building this in lower elos, the win rate is even better because of how much they will be headbutting you. I'd also recommend here taking Ghost of Swain because it really helps your stickiness, right? It's actually kind of hard to stay on enemy champions if you only have flash. So Ghost paired with the Rylai slow and then the Jak'Sho passive stacking. Now moving into the jungle, guys, we have two champions just like the mid lane, and the first of these is Udyr. Now I understand that the Tiger Stance Udyr kind of got nerfed in the hotfixes, but guess what got buffed? The Phoenix Stance Max, the Wingborn Storm Max Udyr. That's what you're doing, by the way. So start with your Q, then we're going to max your ultimate. And the reason your ultimate is so good is because when you get a Demonic Embrace, it's your first major item, followed by a Jak'Sho, there's going to be no stopping you. The damage you do, the dot damage, the tick damage, the AoE damage, it could be the most frustrating thing to play against in League of Legends. You can see these stats in Master and above for the Deer, a 51% win rate, S+ Deer champion in over 3,600 games. Like, how can I not put him on this countdown? And let's be honest, if any of you have played against this, you know what I'm talking about. Moving on to the second jungler, this is Camille. Now I know that Camille, if you look at the stats in most elos, is a trash jungler to pick, but guess what? Because of how the jungle is working at the moment, it's just less worth to invade and actually take the enemy jungler's camps. As Camille, this allows you to gank even more. So by starting at your red buff, just make sure you start your Q and then skill your hookshot at level 2. You can do anything. You can even think of invading the enemy jungler because your passive is very strong in the early game. Also by taking First Strike, it increases your quick burst damage with your Q. And if you do gank a lane, try to gank a lane that has CC. You can also try to predict the enemy champion's flash once you're actually flying at them from the second part of your hookshot. Maybe even saving your hookshot is a good idea because if you can run up to the enemy champion or champions and auto attack them, you'll slow them, save your hookshot for their flash. And once you do get that lane summoner spells, all you have to do is just gank it again. And these stats are from Challenger and above. I know it's only 150 matches, but this is at the highest level, right? So if these players can make it work, there's no reason you guys can't in lower reloads. So Camille is the other jungler. Now the last 5 champions here, guys, in this this video? Well, they're all 80 carries. So 80 carries, I want to see some likes on this video, okay? Now, the first of these, this is Kai'Sa. So I know most people are going to be building Kraken Slayer. I'm talking about going Luden's Tempest. Think about all the buffs recently to Kai'Sa. It's been like all AP ratio buffs. Your passive, the AP has been buffed, right? So let's make use of this. Let's get a Mirror Mana, and then let's get Luden's Tempest and Sorcerer's Shoes. Now, by starting tier as well, this builds into your Mirror Mana, of course. A bit like the other champions I've talked about, Corki might be one, right? You're picking this to scale. So if you see a Caitlyn on the enemy team, if you see a Lucian, it's going to be very dangerous picking Kai'Sa because you're probably not going to be able to get out of the laning phase, right? So do be very careful about just blind picking her and picking her in every single game because some lanes won't actually allow you to actually make use of this setup. But you deal an incredible amount of damage with this build thanks to all the recent buffs. So Kai'Sa is the first of 580 carries. Now the second of 580 carries, well, this is actually playing Twitch, but as a support. So if you're playing Twitch, what I want you guys to think about are these stats right here. This is in Challenger and above for support Twitch, 500 matches. That is a big ass sample space. So what you're going to be doing is running Hail Blaze. Just copy this rune page down. We're going to be starting with a Spell of These, and then we're going to be getting Lucidity Boots, Nash's Tooth, and then Crown of the Shattered Queen. The reason this is so broken is, well, first of all, you deal a lot of damage now with your E because Twitch, a bit like Kai'Sa, has been buffed in Season 12, the AP variant. And by starting your Q, what you can actually do is just ambush pretty much any lane. You don't even have to play bot lane. You don't have to leash your jungler. You can start Q and just like hover around mid lane. You can start Q and maybe even hover around top lane, particularly if it's a very volatile matchup. So the enemy champion might have like 2 combat summoner spells, so it might be a Darius, right? If you can blow his flash and ghost at level 1 as Twitch support, your top laner should actually just snowball off of it. Yes, your AD carry might be a little bit vulnerable, but just make sure they don't die and you should be sweet. Also, you can just run bot pretty quickly because of the movement speed when you go in your Q. So Twitch support, it's a bit cheesy, but it actually works. He's an S tier champion in Challenger Elo and has close to a 53% win rate. Now let's just go back to AD carries for a second. Well, the next 2 AD carries are abusing Ravenous Hydra. The first of these is Nilah. Now you can see these stats for me, even though Hydra did get nerfed, and Nilah got nerfed as well, right? So they're trying to encourage you to build crit and not Hydra, but it's still the go-to. Close to a 60% win rate in Platinum and above by getting a Hydra followed by Grease and then Shield Bow. This says something that she's OP. Now the other Hydra champion, this is actually Jhin. And once again, I know Hydra got nerfed, but it doesn't really matter too much because it didn't get nerfed enough. And the reason it's so nice on Jhin, well, first of all, it procs on all of your abilities, right? So that's kind of like OP, but also it helps with your wave clear, right? Now Jhin does have decent wave clear, don't get me wrong, but it just makes it like impossible to contest waves against him. It procs off your Q, like I said. Each auto attack you deal as well. Like you'll be one-shotting waves. Even once you get Tiamat, the wave clear is kind of insane. So you'll have perma prio bot lane, and it makes it impossible for the enemy bot lane to actually breathe against you. So Ravenous Hydra Jhin is another AD carry you guys should definitely consider picking or trying for 1223. Now the final champion, guys, to talk about, this is Kog'Maw. But we're not talking about Hydra Kog'Maw because I know this might be kind of tech, but it's actually not very good on this champion, but you know what is good? Jack-Show Kog'Maw. Now for your first couple of items, you're not actually getting this mythic item. What you will be getting, Blade of the Rune King, Berserker's Grease, Ginsu's Rageblade, and then you have my permission to get Jack-Show. Because you have all the damage you need at that point, it's pretty much like HP Shred on hit Kog'Maw, which is very standard actually. Pair this with Jack-Show after this, it makes you unkillable, right? Especially if you're taking this rune page, because it gives you so much scaling and HP later in a game, conditioning, overgrowth. It is so deadly the longer the game goes, and you will become the biggest carry on the Rift if you try this out. So give it a shot in your games, let me know what you think, and let me know what you think, guys, of any of these builds if you have actually tried them in this current patch. So those were the 10 craziest builds of 1223. Let me know in the comment section any questions you guys have, any thoughts, and leave a like down below so we know to continue to make these videos. And until our next Season 13 upload, this has been peace.